Hi there everyone, welcome to Fingers, Thumbs and Fits, and today we will be looking at the prototype for the cats of Mont Michel. Now, there's a few things that I need to say before we get into this. One, this is a prototype, so some elements may look different in the final game. And two, I was a little bit late to the party, so I wasn't actually able to get the proper prototype sent out. So what I've done is I've had to use the print to play pack, which is still available on the GameFound campaign, which I will put a link to in the video description. It's in the description to the first video. So I've had to cut some of this stuff out myself, and so as a result, it might look a little bit rough, some elements. As it turns out, I'm not very good at cutting out circles. So I do apologise if some of these look a little bit rudimentary, but it was the best I could do. Anyways, let's crack on, and we'll start off by having a look at the board that we'll be playing on. Okay, so here is the prototype adventure book. Now I know I said I used the print to play pack, but what I have done is I have sent some of this to a professional printers just to make this look a bit nicer for these videos. So so this is the adventure book. This is what we'll actually be playing the game on, and this is what an adventure board looks like. We've got our scenario rules down here, which we'll look at when we actually get to it in just a moment. But this is what the actual board looks like. Let's just turn this sideways so that we can see a little bit better. Now we have some elements on here that we need to look at. This is a round tracker. So each round a marker will progress along here. And each time we get to one of these letters, like in this instance an S, we will spawn an enemy on any square that's marked S. And then when it gets to the end, it will, unless the scenario says otherwise, it will reset to the beginning, and then we continue, and when we hit them we respawn another one, etc, etc. If we also take a look at this board, we take a little bit of a close-up of this section, for example, you'll see that the area is sort of split up two ways. We have our little squares here, but they have a slightly thicker border around them. Now this is because these are sort of, they're kind of groups. There's kind of two ways of moving, which I'll go into when we come to actually play the game. But that comes into moving and range and things like that. So we'll go into that when we get to it. These yellow lines here are blocking terrain, so you get penalties if you sort of attack through them, but if you happen to be inside it yourself, then you don't get penalties. Sorry, not blocking terrain, this is what would you call it? Hindering? Difficult terrain? This is blocking terrain, the red ones. These are obstacles. You can't shoot through them, you can't attack through them, you can't move through them. But yeah, that's our board. These various other symbols here are they're scenario specific, and this C here usually is where you deploy your cats. So yeah, that's our board. So now that we've seen that, let's take a look at one of the character cards, shall we? Okay, who better to take a look at than our suave, swashbuckling narrator himself, Leon. Now, you might notice this is the graphic that I put up when I introduced him, because this is indeed the back of his character card. Now we have a portrait, we have his health track across the top here. He has 9 health points because of course he does, he's a cat. We have a slot for any weapon cards, we have armor. I think you can have two one-handed weapons, 1 two-handed weapon, I think you can only have one piece of armor, but you can have up to 6 items or loot or something. And these stats at the side here are if you're not equipped with a weapon. So this is basically a roll that he needs to inflict a stun on an enemy, and this is a roll he needs to inflict a wound on an enemy. And when we look at the weapon cards as well, they'll have similar stats and symbols. But yeah, that's a character card. We have 4 of them, obviously. That's Leon's. Oh, apologies for knocking the camera. That's Guy, which in the previous video I called Guy, but I've since had a conversation with one of the creators of this game and we've decided I will go with the French pronunciation. So this is Guy. We have Adera, and we have Nera. So those are our characters, and I think that's all the introduction that we need to really, so I guess we should crack on with it, shall we? Now, before I set up, I'm going to go through the special rules here. We have, this is the setup that I showed you briefly just now, because you know there's the board that we'll be playing on. So we'll just go through some of this quickly. We've got here our army pool, which is the enemies that we'll be using. So I'll go through how that works when we get there. We have standard setup, which means there's no special rules that we need to worry about. Standard spawn rules, again, so we don't need to worry about anything in addition here. The objectives that we need to complete in this mission, so we need to complete the patrol before the rooster crows, which ties into this bit here. Evade the roaches, investigate the spill at the square marked 0, and exit the map from the square marked by the green arrow. So our special rules are: before the rooster crows, Chantekla the rooster wakes everyone up on the island with his crowing. This happens when the round counter reaches the end of the round track. The game will then end. If you have not exited all cats from the board by then, you will be blamed for the mess. Start from scratch and replay the scenario. We then have evade the roaches. If a roach marker moves under a cat figure, they will hiss, bite and release a stink cloud, making noise and attracting more of them. Start from scratch and replay the scenario. So we do actually need to properly evade the roaches here. Then we've got spill. We need to remove weapons from the loot deck, which I'll do just before I set up. Set up and spawn. All vermin army markers are placed face up for this scenario, which is interesting because they're usually placed face down, so you don't know what they are. But in this instance, we've only got 6 roaches that we'll be setting up. And in between scenarios, this is what happens when we beat the mission, the scenario, and then I'll read this bit as well. But yeah, so the intro then. The island is in darkness, the deep dark when the moon has gone down and the sun is still abed. Even the angel on the highest spire of the abbey far above is invisible. Enough time for a last patrol, a check that everything has made it safely through the night, as it has for so long. Many think that because times have been good and that trouble has passed by the island so often that this will always be so. They think you are a fool, a worrywart, wasting your time. That doesn't change anything. You have your duty and a few friends who will at least listen. It's enough. Get the patrol in before that pompous rooster Chantekla crows and wakes the humans. So, that's the first scenario's introduction, the Dawn Patrol. Let's crack on with it, shall we? Okay, so here we are, all kind of set up. So, as you can see, I've got some roach counters here. We do have standees for the roaches, but because of the way that they kind of work, I'm going to leave them as tokens for the moment. And then we have the standees for our cats here. We've got Nera in the front, then we've got Leon, then we've got Guy, and then we've got Adera over here. Now, none of them have any weapons at the moment, so I mean they're kind of on equal footing with each other, but this is just the way that I've set them up. We have an objective marker here that we need to investigate, and then we have 2 loot tokens here, 2 loot tokens here. Now if you remember from our objective, we need to get over here to investigate this spillage, and then we need to get out from this green arrow. I've taken the weapons out of the loot deck, which I've put here. We've got our round tracker here, and we've got our dice out. This game uses 12-sided dice, and you only really need 2 of them. Well, I think you only ever need 2 of them. So I think we're good to go. Now, the rounds are split up into 3 sections. There's an initiative round, where you determine who goes first. Then there's the turn round, where you actually make actions and activate your models. And then there's an end segment, where you just kind of tidy the board. So, how initiative works is we take 1 dice for the cats, which I will use as the purple dice because I like purple. And we take 1 dice for the vermin, in this case the roaches, which I'll use as the red dice because red represents evil, right? And we roll them both. And we are aiming to get the highest number. Well, the highest number will act first. However, when it comes to the vermin, we always subtract 4 from it. So, in this case, the vermin would have rolled a 2, the cats have rolled an 8, so the cats act first. So, that's the initiative step. Now we go on to the actual turn. Now this mission doesn't actually involve any combat. This is just getting the basics of movement and board positioning and things down. When we get to the next scenario, we'll introduce some combat. But for this, we're just kind of sneaking around a little bit. So, movement, how does that work? Well, firstly, each cat has 2 action points, which they can spend on doing various actions. They can move, they can attack, you know, various different things. Now there's 3 types of movement that you can use. There is prowling, there is striding, and there is pouncing. Now if you wish to prowl, it costs 1 action point, and you just move to an adjacent small square. Movement in this, by the way, is orthogonal. No diagonal moves are allowed. So yeah, so you could move into the adjacent small square. Next is striding. Striding will allow you to move into an adjacent large square. Striding also only costs 1 action point. So for Adara, for example, she's here. She could stride, as this is a big square here, and this is the adjacent big square here. She could stride to move to there. And then there's pouncing, which is an attack. It's basically a stride that has a free attack afterwards, but it costs 2 action points. But we won't be doing any pouncing this game, this mission. We'll leave that for the next one. So let's start moving our cats, shall we? Nira, being lithe and nimble, is going to spend 2 action points and do 2 prowls. Well, no, she's not. She's going to do a prowl and a stride. So she's going to prowl into this square here, and then she's going to stride into this square here. So she's now actually stealthily standing on top of the table. Leon is going to do a similar thing. He's going to do 2 strides, I think. He's going to stride first to here, and then he's going to come down and join Nira over here. Over here. Guy is going to stride into this square, and then he can, for no AP, pick up an item. So we'll take that off and we'll see what loot he's got. I have shuffled these, by the way. He's set off a booby trap. Well, that's a good start, isn't it? So, what was that? Roll a 7+ or receive a wound. He takes a wound. First blood to the environment. Okay. That'll learn him then. Adara's going to do a similar thing though. She's going to stride. Again, diagonal movement isn't allowed, but you can go into any free square when you stride. So we're going to stride to here, then stride to here, and she's going to pick up this item. Oops. I haven't gone for the double-sided tokens, I'm afraid, so I'm going to keep them facing this way. So what's Adara found? She has found 10 coins. Nice. Little bit more useful than Guy. I guess Guy tripped the booby trap on the box that the coins were in, and Adara just swooped in and nabbed them. But okay, right, so that's all of our cats acted. Now it's on to the vermin. Now the vermin in the full game will have their own character cards. In this instance they don't. I've got them just on a printed version of the rulebook next to me here. But the roaches, they have 1 wound and they have 1 action point. And the roaches will always move towards the nearest cat. So that roach will move over there and that roach will move over there. And now we have the end phase, where we just sort of, you know, take up tokens and effects and what have you, and we move this on. And that's a turn. Nice and simple, nice and straightforward. I'm not really going to explain an awful lot now unless we come into a situation that I haven't mentioned already. So we'll crack on with the mission. Turn 2, we roll initiative. Again, red is roaches, R for roaches. There you go. We -4 from that, so that's 3. We rolled a 5, so we get to go first. Leon, do you know what? I think I'm going to send Leon down to investigate that spillage. Our intrepid swashbuckler is now on cleaning duty, so he's going to stride over here and then stride over here. Although he may require backup, so Nera is still going to accompany him. Adara, I'm going to keep getting that wrong. I did look up the pronunciation for these names. Adara is going to. I mean, she can still move away from the roaches, so she can draw them away. Or actually, that might be an idea. Well, we don't want them to encounter the cats because otherwise the mission will be over. So we're going to stride and then stride. Guy, on the other hand, is going to stride. Well, he's going to prowl and then stride over here. And then our roaches once again. The nearest cats are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so this roach will actually move over here, and this one will now move down. End phase. We now are on an S, which means we have to spawn an enemy. Now, this is our enemy pool here. I've put it here. Usually these would be face down, so you wouldn't know what the enemies were until you put them on the board, and then they're flipped over when they become within line of sight of a cat. But we know what these ones are for this mission. They're roaches. So we spawn a roach over here. So, initiative. -4. Oh, we just this time these roaches are slowly creeping up on us. So we get to go first. Just right, Leon is going to stride into this square and investigate this. So we have to read, is it entry 1? Yes, which is a passage in the rulebook. So bear with whilst I just find that. Entry number 1. Right. Molasses oozes from a cracked earthenware jug and puddles on the floor. Black hairs and a smeared paw print tell you the culprit. A rat has invaded the kitchen, part of the realm you have sworn to protect. They've never been this bold, at least not since... Anyway, you must inform your friend, but what is this? Something moves at the edge of the sugary puddle. It's a roach stuck in the mess over by the jug. Why is it there? Fascinated, you watch it struggle in the thick liquid. It's almost within reach. You should bring it in for question. As you stretch out towards it, the vermin suddenly notice you and rears out of the mire, hissing and trying to attack. Though it is held fast, the movement startles you and you slip as you try to jump back, landing partially in the goo. As the cockroach sinks under the surface for the last time, you realise that even though there's not a lot on you, it really slows you down. The cat who investigated the goo is stuck. Place a stun token on that cat. So Leon has a stun token. Now stun tokens, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit unsure on how they work, but because there's an action that's remove a stun token, I'm assuming you have to do that when you get one. So that's how I'm working it, is if you get a stun token, you have to remove it. So that's what he'll be doing as part of his next turn. So that's Leon acted. So we've investigated the goop. I think we are now good to kind of leave. However, there is currently a roach standing in the way. Well, he's kind of guarding. Let's see if we can game this a little bit. Guy is just going to, he's going to just stride over, stride over to here and just, well, he can stride to there in fact actually. That's fine for him. Adara is going to do a similar thing, so she's going to go to here and then go to here. Never, I will get that right. We want that roach to move towards Guy. Well, I mean, even if 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, Nera's going to come down here then, because then that makes her just one more square away from Guy. So okay, it's now the roach's turn. So this one moves up, this one will move down, and this one will move across. I say, right. Initiative again. End. We move that along. Initiative. Yeah, we are definitely outmatching these roaches this time. So, I mean, I could actually just get Guy out, to be fair. Which I might do. He's drawn that roach away for the moment. So Guy is going to stride to the green square, the green arrow, sorry, and then he can leave. I think we don't have an awful lot of time left, so I think we might have to forsake that extra loot up in the top corner. But Adara is going to stride to there and then just prowl over. I'm going to draw some of these roaches away again with the mage. Nera is going to stride to here and just stay there. And Leon is going to remove his stun token, which costs 1 action point, and he's going to stride behind Nera. Roaches, this one will move up, this one will move along, and this one will move along. Back to initiative again then. We'll move that along. Right, we've got 4 turns essentially to get out, which involves Adara now giving this roach the runaround. Uh-oh. The roaches do act first this time. So we definitely need to get out. To be honest with you, I actually think we can do this, providing we get the initiative next turn. So, Adara is actually going to leave. She's going to move. She's going to stride to there, and then she can leave. Nera, is going to stride. Actually, I reckon we can get Nera out as well, because that's a big box there, big square, that's a big square. So we can stride to here technically, and then prowl to here, which means she's out. The only one left is Leon, which means he can just stride and then stride. Ends phase, move the tracker along. Initiative. Now it actually really doesn't matter who goes first and who doesn't. I mean, we're going first, but even if the roaches did, they wouldn't be able to catch Leon. So he's going to move to the green square. He escapes. Mission's a good one. So, what does the exit say? Chanticleer crows mightily, announcing the day's beginning to all. Golden sunrise bathes the angel, and people rise from their beds or stumble to them. You get yourself cleaned off and out of there just in time. You hear Cookie curse angrily about the mess as you head outside and down the hill to Le Pelican du Mer, the bar where you and your friends spend much of the day basking in the sun and chatting. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you will arm up and get to the bottom of this. And there, in between scenarios, each hero gets to pick one of its preferred weapons. You can find these in the loot deck. And then we go on to scenario number 2, which we'll do in the next video. But before that, let's just check out what some of these armaments are, shall we? Okay, so here's our characters. Once again, we're looking at the back of the character boards, and you can see that each of them has a sort of a couple of weapons listed, and these are their preferred weapons. And obviously Adara has her 10 coins. Now we're going to start off with Nera. Her preferred weapons are Shuriken or Tanto, and I think I'm actually going to go for the Shuriken. Now this is what a weapons card looks like. Let's just go through this quickly. This is how much it would cost you to buy it if you found it from somebody selling it in the tavern. This is how many attack dice you roll. This is how many hands it takes to hold them. This is what you need to roll to stun, what you need to roll to wound, and the range in big squares. And then you've got any special rules down the bottom here. So like for example, grants 2 attack dice if 2 shuriken are equipped. So, okay. So I'm actually going to give the shuriken to Nera because it gives her a sort of short ranged attack. So Nera is going to get her shuriken. Next up we have Adara. Now, her weapons are spells and a staff. Now I don't have any spells to equip her with at the moment. She can learn them as part of her skills, but I don't have any to give her at the moment. So, I'm going to give her her staff. This is her staff. 25 gold to buy, 1 dice to roll, it's 2-handed. 5 to 9 to stun, 10 plus to wound. It has a range of 0, which means you can only use it against an adjacent square. And once per round, may make 1 free attack against an enemy who moves to range 0 of the cap. So if an enemy in their turn, if they move next to you, you can just bop them on the head. So that's Adara's staff. Next up we have Guy, who likes using either a flintlock pistol or a poignard, which is a small dagger. But like Nera, I'm going to give him the flintlock pistol, and there's a reason for this. 25 gold to buy, 1 combat dice, one-handed, 6 to 7 to stun, 8 plus to wound. It's got a range of 1 big square. It's a firearm, which means every time you shoot it, you need to reload it. Wounds friend in same big square as target on the attack roll of a 2. So yeah, you want to, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you could wound your own cat in the same square. So you need to be careful with that. Like I said, you need to reload weapons, firearms after you shoot them. It costs 2 action points to reload. After you've shot, you put one of these tokens next to it, and then you take the 2 action points to remove. So that's Guy's flintlock pistol. And then finally we have Leon, our musketeer, who likes the Charleville musket or the rapier. And this is why I said there's a reason I was going to give Guy the flintlock pistol, is because, of course, being a musketeer, in the traditional sense of the word, honouring Alexander Dumas, we are going to give him a rapier. 25 gold to buy, of course, all of these are, it seems to be. 1 combat dice, one-handed, 5 to 7 to stun, 8 plus to wound, only works for adjacent enemies, and opponents may not dodge this attack. So, that is how our kitties are looking to go into the next mission. We don't visit the tavern just yet, I don't think. We just go on to the next mission, which is called Tretto Combat. So, thank you very much for watching. Please join me for the next one when we tackle Mission 2 in the prototype. And I hope to see you then. So until then, keep on adventuring, stay safe, I'll catch you later. Bye bye.